Canada's political system is falling apart fast. On a cold Monday morning in Ottawa, Chrystia Freeland, who was both Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, suddenly resigned. Her decision shocked the country and was a strong statement against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership. The timing could not have been worse, with Donald Trump likely to return as US President and threatening heavy taxes on Canadian goods. Freeland's exit pushed Canada into more trouble. Her resignation letter, filled with sharp criticism of Trudeau's political tricks, caused a huge uproar and exposed serious problems in the government. Behind closed doors, tensions between Trudeau and Freeland have been building for weeks. The final breaking point came when Trudeau asked Freeland to give up her finance role but continue dealing with Trump-related issues. Freeland refused to accept a smaller role and chose to quit instead. Well, things are just starting to get interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Now, let's determine Trudeau's fate together. Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, played an important part in dealing with the incoming Trump administration. On Monday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's leadership was put at risk when Freeland, who had helped Canada during Trump's first term, resigned suddenly. Her decision to step down was clear criticism of Trudeau's way of handling things. Freeland's resignation comes at a hard time for Canada. President-elect Donald Trump has said he will place 25% tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico unless both countries take stronger steps to stop migrants and drugs from entering the US. This has put Canada in a tough position as it faces possible economic trouble. Freeland had been leading efforts to prepare for Trump's next term and had helped Trudeau's government through past problems. However, in a resignation letter, she accused Trudeau of choosing costly political tricks instead of focusing on the real issues like the threats of tariffs. She believed Trudeau was more interested in short-term moves than solving the bigger problems Canada is facing. Freeland said Canadians know when we are working for them and when we are only thinking of ourselves. She blamed Trudeau's push for measures like tax breaks and sending small payments to citizens, which she argued would increase debt and not solve anything. Was her resignation a wake-up call for Trudeau to change his approach? She said Trudeau's spending, meant to win support from voters, would harm Canada's finances and make it harder to respond to Trump's tariff plans. Freeland argued that the country's economy could not handle such decisions, especially with growing pressure from the United States. Late Monday, Trump mocked Freeland on social media. The great state of Canada is shocked as the finance minister quits, or was fired from her job by Governor Justin Trudeau, he wrote on Truth Social. Trump has often joked about Canada being America's 51st state and calls Trudeau its governor. He also said her actions were toxic and made it impossible to make deals that helped the unhappy people of Canada. Trump and Freeland had clashed during their first term when they worked on a new trade deal. His comments showed that their disagreements had not been forgotten. Freeland, who had been preparing to announce plans to improve border security with the US, instead shocked Canada with her sudden resignation. The move caused frustration in Trudeau's party, with many members now calling on him to step down as leader. Can Trudeau survive this political crisis and keep his position? Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, which is polling far ahead of Justin Trudeau's Liberals, spoke at a press event in Ottawa on Monday. During the event, he read parts of Chrystia Freeland's resignation letter and used it to criticize Trudeau. Poilievre said, "The government is falling apart at the worst time," and demanded Trudeau call an election immediately, claiming the country needs stronger leadership to deal with its problems. That same day, Sean Fraser, the housing minister and a rising figure in Trudeau's cabinet, also announced he was stepping down. His decision added to the list of cabinet members leaving Trudeau's team, with 4 others recently saying they won't run in the next election. The Liberals have also lost 2 long-held seats in special elections this year, leaving the party looking weaker and raising more doubts about Trudeau's ability to hold onto power. Trudeau now has 3 main options. First, he could step down as leader of the Liberal Party, triggering an internal vote to select a new leader. Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Joly, the foreign minister, are viewed as possible candidates. Second, Trudeau could call an early election and try to lead the Liberals to victory himself. The last option is for him to remain in charge and wait until the scheduled election in October, hoping he can rebuild enough support to stay competitive. Each option comes with its own risks, and Trudeau's next move will determine his political fate. If he steps down, will his party unite behind a new leader, or will it cause more division? If he calls an early election, the Liberals may struggle against the Conservatives, who are polling strongly. Waiting until October might allow Trudeau enough time to recover, but it also gives his opponents time to gain more ground. His decision will shape not only his future, but also the party's path forward. What path should Trudeau take to secure his position? The situation is made more complex because Trudeau could also ask the Governor General, Canada's representative of King Charles, to shut down Parliament through a process called prorogation. Meanwhile, his troubles with Freeland had been growing for weeks. Tensions increased when Freeland was left out of Trudeau's visit to meet Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Freeland, who had a successful career as a journalist before entering politics, is married to a reporter at the New York Times. The breaking point came during a Zoom call on Friday, according to sources familiar with the matter. Trudeau asked Freeland to step down as finance minister, but wanted her to continue leading efforts related to Trump. Freeland saw this as a major downgrade in her responsibilities and refused. Sources said this disagreement marked the end of their working relationship and led to her decision to leave the government. Ms. Freeland says she couldn't properly manage the transition without having control of a government department, according to sources. The economic plan released on Monday after her resignation hinted at her frustrations. It revealed 20 billion Canadian dollars in new spending and showed a federal deficit of 61.9 billion Canadian dollars, breaking her earlier promise to keep it under 40.1 billion Canadian dollars. The plan also included an additional 600 million Canadian dollars for border security over 6 years, raising the total to 1.3 billion Canadian dollars. However, there were no details on how the extra money would be used. Ms. Freeland was known as one of Mr. Trudeau's most trusted team members, especially when it came to dealing with Mr. Trump and other challenges. As a Ukrainian Canadian, she had led Canada's support for Ukraine after Russia's invasion. She also played a key role in renegotiating NAFTA during Mr. Trump's first term. In her resignation letter, she stated that Mr. Trump's second term would present major challenges for Canada. How we handled this will define us for generations, she said. Mr. Trudeau spoke briefly about the situation on Monday during a speech to major donors to the Liberal Party. It's been quite a day, he said, avoiding any direct mention of Ms. Freeland's resignation. Instead, he focused on listing his government's achievements and attacking his Conservative rival. His remarks were met with applause, and many in the audience later lined up to take photos with him. As the applause faded, the reality of Ms. Freeland's departure loomed large. A reminder that the higher the rise, the harder the fall.